My father, as you already know, he kicked me out of the house. He said I was a burden to him, that I was good for nothing. He made me sleep in the doghouse on the dirty floor. Rachel's throat tightened, her heart aching at the cruelty inflicted upon such a young child. My God, Penny, did he really make you sleep there, in the cold, with dirt? Penny nodded, her eyes fixed on the ground. Yes, he said that's where I deserved to be. Rachel pressed a hand to her mouth, fighting back indignation and shock. That's monstrous, Penny. No one should go through something like that, let alone a child. But now you're with me, and I'll take care of you, okay? I won't let anyone hurt you anymore. For the first time, Penny raised her eyes, giving a shy but relieved smile. Rachel led Penny to the bedroom, where a soft, clean bed awaited, a stark contrast to. When it comes to breakthroughs, especially in the financial realm, the universe cannot deliver them to you unless you are ready to receive. Just as a teacher appears when the student is prepared, abundance and prosperity will only flow into your life when you truly believe you deserve them. It's essential to begin seeing yourself through a new lens, one that is elevated, expansive, and aligned with limitless potential. If you're unsure where to start, begin by repeating this affirmation over and over again. Speak it with unwavering conviction, allowing it to reshape your energy and mindset. Your financial breakthrough is closer than you think, but you must align yourself with the vibration of success and prosperity for it to manifest in your reality. The process is straightforward. Recognize the infinite power of the universe, connect deeply with its energy, and embrace the truth that your advancement isn't just possible, it's inevitable. The universe is always conspiring in your F. And went straight to Gregory's house. Penny's heart was beating fast as the car moved through the streets. Rachel held her hand the whole time, offering comfort. When they arrived at the house, the officers got out and knocked forcefully on the door. Gregory appeared with an expression of surprise that soon turned to anger. "What's this? What kind of joke is this?" Marcello stepped forward. "Sir, you are being arrested for child neglect and exposing your daughter to inhumane conditions. We have a detailed and sufficient report to take you to the precinct." The man began to shout, denying everything. "My daughter, that ungrateful girl, is always making up stories. She's lying like she always does." Renata approached and handcuffed him as he continued to protest. Penny watched it all from inside the car, embraced by Rachel. Tears were falling, but this time they were tears of relief. Finally, someone was listening to her voice. When her father was taken to the vehicle, Rachel leaned towards Penny and said softly, "Now." you treat a child in a vulnerable situation is repugnant. The doctor shrugged and left the room, leaving Rachel and Penny alone in the midst of the emotional turmoil. Penny began to cry softly as Rachel hugged her tightly. "I'm here, Penny. You're not alone. We're going to figure out what's happening. I promise." Rachel arrived home with Penny, still trying to process everything that had happened at the hospital. The girl was exhausted, and Rachel guided her to a small sofa in the living room, where she placed a blanket over her rest. "Penny, tomorrow we'll figure out how to move forward," said Rachel, even though she wasn't sure how she would handle the situation. The next day, the sun had barely risen when Rachel got up. Penny was still sleeping deeply, and Rachel hesitated before leaving. "I'm going to see how things are at the hospital. Stay here, Penny. I'll be back soon," she whispered, leaving a bowl of fruit on the table for the girl. Arriving at the hospital, Rachel entered with hesitant steps, feeling the heave. The man stumbled through the hospital doors, his frail body hunched over as if gravity itself conspired against him. His arms reached out like branches seeking sunlight, desperate for support that wasn't there. He clung to the reception counter, gasping for air, each breath a battle he seemed destined to lose. Agony twisted his face into a mask of despair. "Please, I need help," he muttered hoarsely, his voice barely audible above the hum of fluorescent lights. "I'm so sick." The receptionist froze, unsure what to do. But Rachel, who had been dropping off papers nearby, didn't hesitate. She ran toward him, her instincts overriding any fear or doubt. This was someone in pain, someone who needed her. "Sir, sit here. I'll help you," she said firmly yet gently, guiding him with practiced care. Her hands steadied his trembling arm as she prepared to lead him to a chair. But before they could take another step, Dr. Allen appeared, blocking their path like a stone wall. His posture radiated a "You've already caused enough damage." His words cut deep, but Rachel refused to back down. As the argument escalated, the old man let out a guttural groan and collapsed from the chair, writhing on the floor in spasms. Rachel dropped to her knees beside him, checking his vital signs while shouting for help. No one moved. The other doctors simply watched, indifferent. "If he dies, it's one less problem for us," Allen muttered under his breath. I am very sorry for any disruption. My apologies for any damage has been done. Tears welled in Rachel's eyes as she realized she was alone in this fight. The man's breathing grew shallower, sweat beading on his forehead. Every second mattered, and she couldn't wait any longer. Spotting an empty gurney near the triage room, she made her decision. Enough, she declared, surprising even herself with the firmness in her voice. Ignoring the shocked murmurs and disapproving stares, she summoned every ounce of strength to lift the man onto the gurney. He stumbled forward, his body hunched and his arms outstretched, as if desperately seeking support. Clinging to the reception counter, he gasped for air, his face twisted in agony. "Please, I need help," he muttered hoarsely, his voice almost inaudible. "I'm feeling sick." The receptionist hesitated, unsure of what to do. But Rachel, who had already dropped off her paperwork nearby, didn't think twice. She rushed toward him, knowing she couldn't ignore such a desperate plea. "Sir, sit here. I'll help you," she said firmly yet gently, her tone reflecting someone who knew exactly what to do. Carefully, she reached out to steady him, guiding him toward a nearby chair. But before she could take another step, Dr. Allen appeared suddenly, blocking their path with an authoritative posture and a cold glare. "Rachel, go back to your ward. Don't meddle where you're not called," he snapped, crossing his arms while casting a contemptuous look at both Rachel and the elderly man. Rachel froze in. Rachel quickly knelt beside him, checking his vital signs. "Someone help me! He's dying!" she shouted, her voice echoing through the hallway. But no one moved. Allen simply shrugged and muttered under his breath, "If he dies, it's one less problem for us." Rachel's heart tightened, tears welling in her eyes at the cruelty unfolding before her. She knew she was alone in this fight, but she couldn't abandon him. As the man lay unconscious, sweat beading on his forehead and his breathing nearly non-existent, Rachel realized she couldn't wait any longer. There was no humanity left in these colleagues. They had abandoned everything it meant to be doctors. In a moment of desperation, she spotted an empty gurney near the triage room. Summoning every ounce of strength, she turned to face the others. "Enough," she declared, her voice firm even to her own ears, ignoring the shocked stares and murmurs of disapproval. She lifted the frail man onto her shoulders, his weight nearly toppling her over. "Sir, sit here, I'll help you," she said, firmly yet gently, her tone betraying years of knowing exactly how to handle moments like this. Carefully, she reached out to guide him to a nearby chair. But before she could take another step, Dr. Allen appeared, blocking their path with an air of authority and a cold, dismissive glare. "Rachel, go back to your ward. Don't meddle where you're not called," Allen snapped, crossing his arms as he looked at both Rachel and the elderly man with thinly veiled contempt. Rachel froze, incredulous. How could he refuse to help someone clearly in danger? "He's feeling sick. He needs immediate care," she protested, trying to reason with him. Allen shook his head, a cynical smile curling his lips. "And who's going to attend to him? You? After the disaster that was Wakim's case, we don't want any more headlines or lawsuits around here." The old man, now clutching the edge of the chair for dear life, turned pleading eyes toward Allen. Tears streamed down his. She realized then that she was alone in this fight, but she also knew she couldn't abandon him. Her chest tightened as she watched the man lose consciousness. Sweat beaded on his forehead, and his breathing grew fainter by the second. There was no more time to plead for humanity from colleagues. who seemed to have forgotten what it meant to be healers. In a moment of raw determination, she scanned the area and spotted an empty gurney near the triage room. "Enough," Rachel declared, her voice firm even to her own ears. Ignoring the shocked looks and murmurs of disapproval, she quickly lifted the man with every ounce of strength she possessed, supporting his weight over her slender shoulders. He nearly knocked her over, but adrenaline and sheer indignation kept her steady. "I'll take care of him, with or without you," she stated, dragging him toward the gurney. Alan took a few steps forward, pointing a finger at her. His voice dripped with warning. "Rachel, you know you're going against." "I'm so sick!" The receptionist hesitated, frozen by uncertainty. But Rachel, who had already dropped her stack of papers, ran toward him without hesitation. She couldn't ignore that desperate plea. "Sir, sit here. I'll help you," she said, firmly yet gently, her tone steady despite the chaos swirling inside her. Carefully, she reached for his arm to guide him to a nearby chair, but before she could take another step, Dr. Allen appeared abruptly, blocking their path with an authoritative stance and a cold glare. "Rachel, go back to your ward. Don't meddle where you're not called," he snapped, crossing his arms as if sealing off any argument. His eyes flicked disdainfully between Rachel and the elderly man. Rachel froze, incredulous at his refusal to act. "He's feeling sick. He needs immediate care," she protested, trying to reason with him. Alan shook his head, a cynical smile curling his lips. "And who's going to attend to him? You, after the disaster that was Joaquim's case? We don't." "Someone help me! He's dying!" she shouted, desperation clawing at her voice. No one moved. Alan merely shrugged, muttering under his breath, "If he dies, it's one less problem for us." Tears welled in Rachel's eyes as the weight of their callousness hit her. Her heart tightened with both fury and sorrow. She was alone in this fight, but she couldn't abandon him. As the man lay on the floor, his consciousness slipping away, sweat beading on his forehead, Rachel realized she could no longer wait. Adrenaline surged through her veins. Spotting an empty gurney near the triage room, she made her decision. "Enough," Rachel declared, her voice firm even to her own ears. Ignoring the shocked murmurs and disapproving stares, she mustered every ounce of strength to lift the man onto the gurney. His weight nearly toppled her, but determination kept her upright. "I'll take care of him, with or without you," she stated. Dragging the gurney toward an examination room, Alan took a few steps forward. In that moment, Rachel rediscovered why she had chosen this path. To heal, to protect, to give hope when it seemed impossible. And as the man's breathing steadied ever so slightly, Rachel allowed herself a fleeting smile. Against all odds, she had fought for his life, and won. For now, that was enough. Ask, explain. Rachel stood firm, her face etched with determination as she glanced at the array of instruments laid out before her. "I'd rather lose my career than my conscience," she declared under her breath, steeling herself for what lay ahead. With steady hands, she began the delicate procedures needed to save the man's life. Just as Rachel was deeply focused, Alan appeared in the doorway, arms crossed and a smirk playing on his lips. "All right, Rachel," he said mockingly. "Do what you want. But when he dies, the blood will be on your hands again. Good luck explaining that to the board." Rachel felt the weight of his words like a stone sinking into her chest, but she refused to let them shake her resolve. She adjusted the heart monitor, initiated ventilatory support, and administered the necessary medications with precision. Minutes stretched into what felt like hours, but finally, the monitor beeped steadily, regular vital signs. The man opened his eyes, too weak to speak, but alive nonetheless. The results were unmistakable. Penny wasn't pregnant. She suffered from infectious arthritis, a condition caused by severe infections, often linked to living in unsanitary conditions, like constantly sleeping in filthy environments, surrounded by filth and neglect. "My God," Rachel whispered, a mix of relief and indignation swelling within her. That's it. Penny had been judged and humiliated for something that wasn't her fault. Clenching her jaw, Rachel stuffed the document into her lab coat pocket and stormed out of the room. "I won't let this go," she vowed silently. As she stepped out of the hospital for the last time, Rachel looked up at the darkening sky. Despite losing her job, she knew there was something far more important to fight for now: Penny's justice and well-being. "You're not alone, Penny," she murmured determinedly. "I'll fight for you until the end." Adrenaline surged through Rachel as she sprinted through the streets, her heart pounding wildly. Each step felt heavier. To the hospital, Rachel spoke to Penny, trying to calm her down, but the girl was too weak to respond. Arriving at the hospital, Rachel ran to the reception desk, where a nurse attended her in a cold and indifferent manner. "What do we have here?" the nurse asked, looking at Penny with disdain. "She's very sick. Please, we need urgent help," Rachel replied, her voice almost pleading. The nurse merely shrugged and pointed toward a stretcher without any sense of urgency. When Rachel tried to get Penny attended to immediately, the nurse looked at her with a cynical smile. "There's nothing serious here. We'll see what we can do," she said, visibly uninterested. Desperate, Rachel tried to get the attention of other doctors, but they were all busy with other situations. When she finally managed to speak with a doctor, he looked at her with an expression of disdain, as if the situation was too trivial for his experience. "She's not in a life-threatening condition. You're overreacting," the doctor said, without even properly looking. The venom in his words cut deeper than any blade. "You think you have any right to interfere in my life? Now you're going to pay for it." The humiliation in his tone struck Rachel like a physical blow, leaving her stunned and unsure of how to respond. Fear and despair tightened around her chest like a vice. He didn't care about his daughter's pain. He didn't care that Penny was fighting for her life. All he wanted was another chance to humiliate Rachel. Rachel tried to recompose herself, but his accusations felt like being shoved back into an abyss she had barely clawed her way out of. "She's my daughter," he spat, his eyes gleaming with irrational anger. "It wasn't you who saved her, and it won't be you who decides what's best for her. I'm taking her back as soon as she leaves that room, and there's nothing you can do to stop me." With every word, he stepped closer, looming over her, as if trying to crush her beneath the weight of his rage. Rachel felt powerless, her heart racing as... "I didn't say that. I tried not to burden him." Still, she knew the battle was far from won. Penny's fate hung precariously in the balance, and Rachel couldn't afford to falter. "You're not taking your daughter back," Rachel said, her voice rising with unexpected force. Every ounce of Penny's suffering, every sleepless night Rachel had endured, seemed to pour into her words. She's not going back to that hell. Your neglect is why she's here, why she's dying. I saw what you did to her. You made her sleep in a doghouse, amidst filth and squalor. You starved her. This is on you. Each accusation landed like a punch, shattering the facade of indifference he had worked so hard to maintain. The man's face twisted into an expression of uncontrollable rage. "You don't know anything," he shouted, his voice laced with contempt. "The police released me for lack of evidence. So why are you accusing me like this?" He gestured wildly, as if trying to swat away the weight of her words. His contempt for Rachel was palpable, but his eyes gleamed with irrational anger as he spat, "She's my daughter. It wasn't you who saved her, and it won't be you who decides what's best for her. I'm taking her back as soon as she leaves that room, and there's nothing you can do to stop me." With every word, he stepped closer, his presence looming over her like a storm cloud, ready to crush her. She felt paralyzed, her heart racing, her mind scrambling for answers, but no words came. How could she defend Penny, a child who had suffered so much, against this cruel and unfeeling man? He continued his verbal assault without pause, leaving no room for Rachel to speak. Each sentence chipped away at her resolve until she felt small, insignificant, as if the ground beneath her feet were crumbling. To him, she wasn't someone trying to help his daughter. She was an intruder, someone who dared meddle in his problems, and now, he believed, she deserved to suffer the consequences. At that moment, Rachel wasn't sure if she could go on. You've kept her for so long, and now you think you can just take her back as if nothing happened. You have no power over her. Not while I'm here to stop you. Rachel's voice was steady, but a tight knot twisted in her chest. The truth burned clear in her mind. Penny didn't deserve to go back to that place. She didn't deserve to return to him. For a fleeting moment, the man hesitated, as though Rachel's unwavering resolve had finally pierced through his arrogance. But then he tried to mask it with a sarcastic laugh, his lips curling into a crooked smile. "I'm getting my daughter back, and there's nothing you can do about it," he sneered, exuding false confidence. Yet Rachel saw right through him. Beneath the bravado, fear flickered, small at first, but growing stronger with each passing second. He knew he'd lost his authority over Penny, and the shame of being confronted with his own cruelty gnawed at him more than he cared to admit. "You're not doing anything," Rachel shot back, her V. "You've kept her for so long, and now you think you can just take her back as if nothing happened? You have no power over her, not while I'm here to stop you." Rachel's voice was steady, but a tight knot twisted in her chest. The truth burned clear in her mind. Penny didn't deserve to go back to that place. She didn't deserve to return to him. For a fleeting moment, the man hesitated, as though Rachel's unwavering resolve had finally pierced through his arrogance. But then he tried to mask it with a sarcastic laugh, his lips curling into a crooked smile. "I'm getting my daughter back, and there's nothing you can do about it," he sneered, exuding. Rachel's heart pounded as officers entered the room. Without hesitation, she approached them, her voice trembling with fury. "How could you let him go last time? After everything he did to this child," she demanded, tears brimming in her eyes. "How could you release him?" One of the officers, clearly seasoned, spoke calmly despite the chaos. "We know what he did, Rachel. Last time, he bribed the authorities and escaped prison due to lack of concrete evidence. But don't worry, he'll pay for it now. We're taking him in." Though the response didn't fully calm her, Rachel could see the police were finally in control. They cornered Gregory, who thrashed wildly, shouting protests as they placed handcuffs on his wrists. "No, I won't let you take me!" he screamed, sweat pouring down his face as he struggled against their firm grip. But resistance was futile. There was no escape for him anymore. As they dragged him out of the room, Rachel watched, her emotions swirling between anger and relief. The room finally settled into a tense but calmer rhythm as the man was taken away. Rachel exhaled deeply, her shoulders sagging with relief. The words she muttered to herself carried the weight of exhaustion and triumph. It's over, for now. Her eyes scanned the doctors and nurses around her, their faces reflecting a similar sense of relief. She turned back to Penny, who lay resting after surgery. For the first time in days, Rachel allowed herself to believe that Penny was safe, at least for the moment. The battle wasn't fully won, but at that instant, Rachel knew she had done what mattered most. She had been there to protect the girl, and that was enough. She heaved a deep sigh, feeling the weight of her responsibility lift slightly. The police would handle the rest, and Rachel hoped, prayed, that this marked the beginning of a new chapter for Penny. A life without pain, without fear, without abuse. A week had passed since Penny's arrival at the hospital. The surgery had been successful. Finally, they were heading in the right direction. The days passed slowly, each small progress and shy smile, serving as reminders that Penny was finding her way back to life, away from the pain and misery that had once consumed her. Rachel became more than just a caregiver. She became a maternal figure in Penny's life, offering not only medical care, but also unconditional love and patience. Rachel knew Penny's recovery wouldn't follow a straight line. There would be ups and downs, moments of distrust, and even emotional relapses. But she was determined to stand by Penny's side until the very end. Over time, their bond deepened. Rachel arranged for Penny to attend a nearby school, where she began learning again, despite the gaps caused by lost years and trauma. Initially frightened and distrustful, Penny gradually started to trust herself and others with Rachel's unwavering support. She discovered joy in learning, made new friends, and slowly rebuilt pieces of her shattered world. At home, Penny, now 10 years old, darted around the living room with a lightness that seemed almost magical. Her laughter filled the air, and the smile she wore was genuine, something Rachel had never dared to imagine during those first fragile days when Penny arrived, distrustful and broken. For a moment, Penny paused mid-play and turned to look at Rachel, her eyes shining with gratitude. "Rachel," Penny began, her voice soft but steady, "I never thought I could be this happy. You gave me a second chance, and I don't know how to thank you." Rachel smiled, though her heart tightened with emotion. She had always believed she was doing the right thing, but hearing these words from Penny touched her deeply. Kneeling down, she pulled the girl into an affectionate hug, feeling an immense warmth spread through her chest. "You don't have to thank me, Penny," Rachel said, her voice thick with emotion. "You deserve to be happy. You deserve a future full of love. And I'll be here to support you every step." It was the first time in so long that she smiled with such conviction. Weeks turned into months, and the bond between Rachel and Penny only grew stronger. What had begun as a caregiver-child relationship evolved into something far deeper. A friendship rooted in mutual understanding and unconditional love. Together, they faced challenges, shared moments of joy, and embarked on adventures that broadened their horizons. They traveled to new places, exploring the world beyond their doorstep and creating memories that neither would ever forget. Each trip, each experience, became a testament to Penny's bravery, a declaration to the world that she could overcome everything that had once held her back. The past still existed, but it no longer controlled her life. Rachel realized that in saving Penny, she had also saved herself. By giving everything to help Penny heal, she had found her own redemption. The love she poured into Penny reflected back onto her, and together they were crafting some. She couldn't change the past, but she could make a difference in Penny's present. And that meant everything. Penny, stronger and more confident than ever before, started making friends at school and excelling academically. Though she still struggled with social interactions, she faced her fears with resilience, finding creative ways to navigate challenges. Rachel attended every school performance and event, her heart swelling with pride each time she watched the once broken girl shine. The scars of Penny's past hadn't vanished entirely, but they were fading, slowly being replaced by brighter memories and newfound confidence. One Saturday afternoon, as Rachel and Penny strolled through the park like they always did, Penny suddenly stopped walking. Her expression turned serious, as if she were wrestling with a question too big to hold inside any longer. "Rachel," she began hesitantly, "do you believe I can be something big when I grow up?" Rachel froze, turning to face Penny fully. Where once there had been regret and self-doubt, there was now purpose. Together, they were rewriting their stories, not just as individuals, but as a family bound by love, resilience, and the unshakable belief that they could face anything as long as they faced it together. Ask, explain. Rachel's life had taken on a new clarity, a deeper purpose. For years, she had believed her mission was to physically heal others, to alleviate pain and provide medical care. But caring for Penny had shifted something within her, revealing a truth that transcended the boundaries of medicine. The responsibility of nurturing Penny had become a cornerstone of Rachel's existence, one she could no longer ignore or set aside. Penny, the girl she had rescued from the shadows, was now a reflection of her own strength. With every smile Penny gave, with every small victory over adversity, Rachel felt more certain than ever that she had discovered her true calling. Yet this newfound sense of purpose also brought questions. What more could she do? Saving Penny had given the girl a chance at life, but what about the countless others like her? What more could Rachel do to transform the world around her? Her vision was no longer confined to the sterile walls of a hospital. She wanted to fight for some. Share this story if it moved you, and let's continue spreading hope, one life at a time. Ask, Explain. Rachel's life had taken on a new dimension, one that was clearer and deeper than anything she'd known before. For years, she believed her mission was straightforward: to physically heal others, alleviate pain, and provide medical care. But caring for Penny had opened her eyes to something far greater, something beyond the confines of medicine. The responsibility of caring for Penny had become a cornerstone of Rachel's existence, an obligation she could no longer ignore or set aside. Penny, the girl she had rescued from the shadows, was now a reflection of her own strength. With every smile from Penny, with every small victory over adversity, Rachel found herself more convinced than ever that she had discovered her true calling. Yet, this newfound purpose also brought questions. What more could she do to help those around her? Saving Penny had given the girl a chance. Her voice was low, almost a whisper, as she dared to ask. Gregory looked at her like she was nothing more than an inconvenience, a burden he couldn't wait to be rid of. His eyes flicked from the plate in front of him to her face, a sarcastic smile curling his lips. "Hungry? You want food, huh?" he sneered, his tone dripping with mockery. "Clean the house then, and maybe I'll give you a little something if you really make an effort. Have you ever seen anyone hungry just sitting around? Get to work, you lazy bum." His words hit Penny like a slap, sharp and cruel. She swallowed hard, her stomach churning not just from hunger, but from the humiliation that washed over her. But what choice did she have? She glanced one last time at the plate of food before moving away, ashamed even to have asked. Her father treated her as though she were less than human. No affection, no mercy. For the rest of the morning, Penny worked tirelessly, scrubbing surfaces, sweeping floors, her body trembling. 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 Body trembling.